Hey guys, this is Justin Figueroa, and we will be talking today about 3 common mistakes that student pilots make. Common mistakes, right? There's so many of them in aviation, especially as a new beginning pilot. Let's talk about the top 3 that we could start to avoid. Beginning to fly the plane for the first time, what is the number 1 mistake that I see every single pilot that gets in the plane for the first time do? So what I see a lot is when we're climbing out, we go to a altitude where we want to begin to be straight and level. And instead of staying straight and level, we are now climbing and we're trying to stay at a certain altitude. We're descending and not staying at that certain altitude. So we have this phrase what we call pitch, power, and trim, right? So pitch, power, and trim, what that allows us to do, we pitch for the altitude that we want to be at. We put the desired RPMs, and then we put the trim where we want it. And the trim allows us to allow the pressure where we have it to release it, and the plane basically wants to fly itself with less pressure. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see all the time from very new beginning pilots. The second biggest mistake is when we're about to go for a landing, right? And they learned all about the checklist and all these things about the process of landing and the speed. So they wouldn't say, no, okay, this is the speed I have. This is the RPMs I need. This is the airspeed. If I get this, then my patterns are going to be a rectangle. Well, while they're trying to do the inside, look at the speeds inside, they forget that looking outside actually makes your rectangle more like a rectangle. And instead of them being focused on continuously looking back at their airport and at the actual landing spot, what they're doing is looking too much inside, and that allows them now to have a racetrack of a pattern rather than that rectangle that you actually need to land, because now you're judging the correct descent angle down to actually land the aircraft correctly. The third issue that I see a lot is when we are flying the aircraft just in general out in the midst of just a random airspace, and then all of a sudden they have to do a checklist, or they have to do something configuring the plane, the airspeed's changing, the turbulence throws them off, and they forget that we're flying an aircraft in the middle of the air, right? We have to put our eyes outside and fly it, right? Fly the aircraft itself before we do anything else. Sometimes we get caught up using the communications, trying to contact ACC, trying to get the right frequency in the G1000, things that may get them overwhelmed or behind the plane instead of ahead of the plane, and make sure they're flying it first and then doing the next secondary task later. Okay guys, well that wraps up today's video for the 3 common mistakes that student pilots make.